Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the channel. I really want to appreciate you. It's been a minute, but I know we've been doing a lot of things in the back end, trying to move on despite everything else that's happening, around us. And the past couple of weeks have been nothing short of a roller coaster. I've received the most calls from clients, from individuals, from doctors, from lawyers, from engineers, people in their late 50s, 60s, and even in their 70s calling to inquire. How do I save my retirement? That has been the looming question for most people. And we're not just talking about people who lost money in the past week. We're talking about people who are planning to retire and are seeing what is happening right now. I consulted with a real estate agent who is in his 60s, 62. And I asked him, what is your retirement plan? What have you put in place for retirement? And the reality is nothing. Because what happens to most real estate agents is, because they make money off of commissions, and then you are responsible for contributing to your own retirement fund or retirement plan that you have in place. Most people don't go around to doing that. So you find out, the people with a retirement plan, so to speak, are those with a job, because the job kind of automatically volunteers you into a 401k or 403b or Roth IRA or Roth 401k or a TSP plan. So you're kind of contributing to a bucket. You may not understand how the bucket works. You may not even know it exists. Most people don't even know the provider that holds the retirement fund, but at least you're doing something, which is better than nothing at all. And so what I've noticed is a lot of people are coming to the reality of what could happen to all this money they're putting away. All right. And the truth is, you become more concerned about how your money is performing or the amount you even have in there when you get into your late 50s, get into your 60s, closer to this quote unquote retirement age. All right. That's a topic for another day. Why 65 is considered a retirement age, first of all. I don't know who came up with that rule. But that's a topic for another day. Today, let's just look at what has been going on with the market. I have in front of me here the screen. I was just checking the performance of the S&P 500, which is typical, which represents like the 500 largest companies in the US. And today, at least the market is up, I think 1%. 1%. I think 5 days look back, it's up now 7%. Now you would think, oh, that's amazing. The S&P 500 is doing great. But guess what? A month ago, it was at 5,765,000 per share. And as of right now, it's at 5,300. So that is a loss of over $400 in just the space of a couple of weeks. All right. So month to date, the market is still down, or your 401k would be down about 4%. That is if your 401k was invested in the S&P 500 exclusively. Now, when I stretch this out to like 6 months, the average 401k, I keep saying 401k or IRA or TSP or whatever plan it is that is directly invested in the S&P 500 would be down about 8%. So think of someone who planned to retire in 2025. They were turning 65 this year, and they had, say, $500,000 in their 401k or in their S&P or investment or whatever it is. And then they woke up, and in the past 6 months, they have lost 8% of that money. That's it. Well, it's in the wind, which means, until you can wait long enough for it to recover to where you were, to where it was 6 months ago, you would stay down. All right. So your retirement fund would go from 500,000 down to whatever 8% of that amount is. All right. And then if I stretch it out for a year, that is just in the past 6 months, guess what? In the past 1 year, the market is down 8%, 8.94%. So almost about 9%. So anyone who was supposed to retire in the past year, or this year, for example, from March of 2024 to April of 2025, your 401k or your retirement fund or whatever investment you have that is tied to the S&P 500 is down 9%. Now, there's a difference between average returns and actual returns. All right. This is actual return. This is actual because this is what is happening to your policy, to your portfolio. All right. Now, average returns is when we look at, in the past 5 years, what is the average return for the past 5 years? Of course. Then we're going to kind of nitpick and kind of ignore the years where you lost money and only focus more on taking a combined median and being like, okay, in the past 5 years, it seems your portfolio has been up 4% or 5% or 10%, which is great. But when you look at the actual returns, is what you're going through. And I want you going forward to not just focus on average returns. When your financial advisor or your banker or friend or whoever it is tells you this is your average rate of return, I want you to go into the actual rate of return, which is what is the policy or what is the account doing every single year. Because if you're going to retire this year to now, you're not going to be looking at what is the average the market has done. You're going to be asking yourself, what is my actual return? If my portfolio has lost 10% and I'm going to retire this year, that's what I care about. I don't care about the past 20 years. I care about this year. All right. So the past couple of weeks, I've been training and teaching and educating folks on alternatives to where you don't lose money based on market fluctuations, to where you can protect your bottom line. Your principal got to stay protected. Your principal has to stay protected regardless of what is happening in the stock market. All right. That is where this concept of creating your own economy so you don't have to depend on the economy. That's where it comes in. I've posted a couple of content on creating your own economy. And I learned this from this gentleman called Myron Golden. He shared it and the concept sounded so great. So I expatiated on it. I mean, I like to think I did, of creating your own economy. So you're not dependent on the economy. All right. And what does that entail? You got to develop strategies and plans, develop other alternatives to not just fall in line with whatever society, has deemed customary, which is 401ks, 403bs, IRAs, TSPs, index funds, all these things that we are accustomed to. And we just fall in line because, well, that is what is available. Now, what is available when you take the default is exactly what is going on right now. When I got a call last week from this medical doctor who is retiring or is about to retire, and he just lost a huge chunk of his savings in his 401k because he went the aggressive route. Because this is what happened. A couple of years working, of course, in his early years, he was still young in his 30s. Life was so long, so he didn't spend enough time putting away money. He focused on, of course, building a lifestyle, trying to pay off his student debt and everything else, building houses back in Africa and doing all of these things. And then when he got into his 50s is when he started thinking of retirement, because he could see some of his colleagues going in retirement and seeing how stressed they were and how stressful retirement was. And some of his colleagues, medical doctors, working all the way into their 70s, he started putting money away. But again, until you've understood what are you going to actually need in retirement, there is no sufficient amount you can put away because you have no idea what you need in the first place. But he discovered later on that he needed to start doing that. And he started. But the problem is all the money he's put into his 401k, into his 403b, is in the range of maybe 700 plus thousand. And he woke up because he chose the aggressive choice, which means he needs more of his money invested in the stock market. You can be conservative. Conservative means you want more bonds. Bonds are bonds are not as volatile. So bonds will not give you as much returns, but would kind of regulate your bottom line. You would still go negative because it can, but at least it would not drift all the way down. But he had most of his money, 90% of his money in the market because he needed to make fast. He needed to accumulate money fast, according to his financial advisor. And so he wakes up, $700 and something thousand is down to $500 and something thousand. It means in the past week only, he's lost over $200,000. And this is not an exaggeration, because he had some of his money sitting in individual stocks, all right, and then some in index funds. So you can imagine when the market takes a dip, he feels all of it. But the good side is, or the upside of what he was hoping for anyway, is that the market appreciates. Because if when the market appreciates and you have most of your money in individual stocks and index funds, you get a significant bump in your income. That's how he's been able to skyrocket all the way to 700. But now he's in his 60s. And he has no idea how long he would have to wait for the market to recover. Losing 200 and something thousand can send you straight into depression. And that's exactly where he is right now. So the point I'm trying to make is this. There are alternatives of growing significantly higher amounts or getting higher rates of return without necessarily risking your life's hard-earned money. All the money you've spent years and sweat earning should not go down the drain just because the economy, decided so, or whoever is president decided it was about time we changed the regulations and do whatever. Your economy should not suffer the consequences. So this concept of creating your own economy is one thing that I'm expatiating on. I'm going to be adding more content, making it more elaborate, so people like you watching right now can understand how you can build your own economy so you don't have to depend on the economy. All right. Now, I want to read something here. Part of the content that I posted, and it's still in line with creating your own economy. It said the biggest lie we were sold was just to go to school, get a job, and everything will be fine. But the reality is this. The economy doesn't care about your degree. This economy didn't say, I'm going to drop only on teachers. I'm going to only affect engineers. I'm going to only affect nurses. No, the economy doesn't care. If you're a medical doctor, if you're an engineer, if you're a senator, the economy doesn't care. That's when you only depend on the economy. It doesn't care what you do. Your degree is useless to the economy. And that's the lie we were sold. Go to school, get a job, and everything is going to fall in line. Well, we've noticed that is not reality. When you go to school, get a job, and you don't just start making multiple six figures. No, you don't just magically learn how to save money. No, you don't just magically know how the tax code works. No, you don't just magically know how to invest and all these nuances that fall around finances. It does not do that. What the system doesn't tell us is that we need education out of the education that we undertook at college, which is financial literacy. And most of that is going to be self-taught. It's going to be, you deciding you want to teach yourself, basically. All right? So let me continue here. Markets crash, inflation hits. So what do you do? What do you do when markets are going to crash, regardless of what you do or where you are or how special you think you are? Inflation is going to hit every single person. The price of eggs, the price of gas, the price of everything is going up on the rich and poor alike. The difference is the rich make way more money than you do. So they can probably cruise through an inflation streak, or probably mellow through a market crash, because they're probably not as invested in the market as you are. They have created their own economy to where it's not influenced by what is going on in the market. You have to create your own economy. You have to learn new skills. You have to build something real. Learn new skills and build something real. Why would I say learn new skills? If you're already a doctor, you know the skills you need to become a doctor. That's not a problem. The problem would be you don't have the skills to build wealth. So you are great at being a doctor, you are great at being an IT professional, you're great at being a nurse, wonderful, but you're not skilled. You're not equipped at being a financial manager. And that is why the money you make slowly disappears, because you have not yet mastered the skills to manage your money. All right? Build something real, tangible, something that is not dependent on someone else. We're going to talk a little bit more on that. The whole purpose for doing this is just so you can stop depending and you can start designing. You stop depending on the system or the economy, and you start designing your system and your economy. That way, you're not losing your life savings just because the market took a nosedive. Just because we decided it was about time to pick up a tariff fight with whoever. Just because there was a war wherever that affects your economy, your finances here in the United States. So there's a whole lot more we can cover. I just wanted to come on here and share my thoughts on some of the remedies we could put in place, because it's been alarming. Later today, I have an appointment with a high net worth individual, and the topic is probably going to be on the same subject. How do I protect my bottom line? How do I make sure I'm not losing my principal? How do I make sure my future is guaranteed? So I don't wake up at 65, at 70 with no money in the bank and I have to go back to work. So if you're just as curious, leave a comment below, like and share this video, and watch out for more to come. Thank you so much. Have a blessed rest of your day.